is Jamie Jones. This is Mrs. Beth from one of the teachers from the academy here at Club Med, and today I'll be interviewing her on the topic racism. So, what does racism mean to you?
Racism means to me it's ignorance from lack of education or from lack of understanding of other people's cultures, beliefs, colors, and what they bring to society.
Gotcha.
That sounded more intelligent.
And what is it like in America today?
Today in America, I think we've come a long ways, great strides in towards the racism. I think in third world countries it's much more prevalent, but it's still pretty dominant in geographical parts of America. For instance, you might, in my opinion, see more examples of racism in the South because we're truly embedded in that from our past history.
Gotcha. Do you think racism is a problem today in today's society? Why or why not?
I still think it's a big problem because racism, when people mention racism, they probably think more of black or African Americans for racial reasons, but we're also talking about immigrants who come to America. And there's a big debate about whether we should allow immigrants children to go to schools and colleges here. So yes, it's still a problem. It's an ongoing problem, and it's probably through lack of understanding and education, and people have differing opinions on how to solve the racial problems.
Gotcha. What was racism like in the past compared to now?
All right, if you're talking about general America, the past, we had a civil war over that whole issue. Today, there's still hate crimes, and people are just embedded in their thoughts of the past or how they were raised. If you're going to talk personally about myself, which I think are the next couple questions, we'll cover it then.
Yes.
I think we have made great strides in that area.
Have you had any problems with racism in your childhood?
That is a good question because I actually was raised during the time of Martin Luther King and in the 60s.
Yes.
And I do remember in the early 70s we had segregated schools. That means that if you were white, you went to a white school. If you were black, you went to a black school. And when we had to integrate, there were a lot of racial riots in my high school. And we didn't go to school certain days because there were bomb threats and there was a lot of fighting and anger. So it was very strong here in Fort Pierce.
Wow. What are ways we can help racism today?
Education as a teacher, I think, is key.
Yeah.
Tolerance is something that's hard to be taught unless your parents teach you that,
Right.
or you have a strong figurehead that you look up to that can guide you in what's appropriate and to accept other people of other colors, religions, and races.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you think racism has gone better or worse?
I think that racism for America has gotten better, and I think it's because we've had, especially in the South, the schools system we were in, we've only been integrated for 20, 30 years now. So we've come a long ways from where we started, where we didn't go to the same schools.
Right.
We are going to the same schools. Children play together. We see interracial marriages, and it's more people are accepting of those marriages. It's not like everybody walks on the other side of the street anymore or disowns a family member because they like somebody of a different color.
Right. Should we teach our children to avoid the good of racism?
Absolutely. We're all one world, one people. And the only difference between us maybe is the color of our skin and how we were raised.
Can you give an example of what we can teach them?
Okay. Yes, an example of what we can teach them is in the school system, being tolerant of one another, accepting people for their opinions, no matter where they come from, no matter what color they are,
Right.
and show definitely by example.
Right.
Practice what you preach.
Right. Do you think that maybe black people are overreacting to the situation of racism?
Boy, that's a tough question. I can't gauge that really. It's because it's not just blacks who we're talking about in racism and everything like that. We're talking about any people of other races,
Yeah.
Arabic and things like that. Overreacting, given their past history, I could see why there is that kind of reaction. And that is a question that I would be better left to a person who might be an African American to give their opinion on that. Because
Okay.
as a white American, I didn't come from that background. I don't
Right.
experience that type of racism, so it would be hard for me to answer that question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.